Hey, it's Melina. I'm here at the Genzio Media House during ETH Denver, and today I'm chatting with Hubert from VLayer. We're chatting how to make online security easier for everyone and how VLayer is building the tools to do just that. Check it out. Hey, it's Melina. I'm here at the Genzio Media House during ETH Denver. Today I'm joined by Hubert from VLayer. Thank you for being here.
Hello, thanks for having me. It's a beautiful house and a beautiful day.
So talk to me. What brings you to ETH Denver?
Oh, I guess as many of the tech company founders in Web3, it's really Denver is the place to be. End of February, we are spending a lot of time talking with our early design partners, first customers, but also our investors. This is really the place to get the inspiration and energy for the rest of 2025.
So what is VLayer? Try to tell us what that is in a nutshell.
So the name stands for verifiable layer. We do believe that we are missing a structural way of bringing more verifiability to how smart contracts are providing utility to users. To put it into more simple terms, we are bridging Web3 apps with the data coming from Web2. We do believe that we'll be able to win the hearts of more customers, especially the ones that are not crypto native, if we will be able to leverage information that is currently used and stored on centralized servers. So this verifiability and the data we are bringing on chain needs to be processed in the right way, because especially private data cannot land directly on a public chain. Like no one would allow this, so no one would like to do this. So we are using zero knowledge proofs as an underlying technology to make it possible. And obviously there is a lot of magic to make it also cost effective, so that the builders out there are able to embrace the potential of zero knowledge proofs, so that their apps are more useful and hence there are more users for their creations. But at the end of the day, we also need to think about the economics of everything. So we do believe that as some are calling 2025 a year for that ZK will really break it to the broader public, we want to play an important part in this movement, and the technology is definitely there. We have been working a lot on developer experience, so that you don't necessarily need to have 5 PhDs in applied mathematics or cryptography to be able to understand and compose with some of these great inventions. So we've been cooking our underlying technical artifacts for almost a year and a half now, but in our minds it's been living for a longer time. So super excited about the rest of the week here, but even more for the rest of 2025.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, because right now you're in testnet, heading to Mainnet. So, talk to us about the Mainnet event as well. When is that happening?
Sure. So indeed, earlier this month, so earlier in February, we have introduced or exposed the first 4 functions.
What are they?
Happy to go through them in a short second. And developers are currently testing. Like we've been blessed with close to 30,000 developers that decided to spend some time and play with our tools. These 4 functions are effectively Solidity functions. So if you are a Solidity smart contract developer, you can just think about them as functions that you can compose with directly in your code. So like you don't need to build a new tech stack or any new object. Like you can directly import and compose with them in your app. So going through them, we have web proofs. This has become a pretty popular concept in the last months. Web proofs allow you to access in a verifiable way any data, any private data that comes from HTTPS connection. So like if you use Instagram, your mobile app is communicating with Instagram servers, and the servers are responding in a structured way with your app to visualize the contents that you are interacting with. Thanks to a web proof, you can, for instance, create an attestation that your post has reached a particular set of impression metrics, and be able to then take this attestation and reference it from a smart contract. So this private information that is living within the Instagram server can be converted to something that can be, first of all, used and then trusted directly from a smart contract. So for instance, if you would be building a social or influencer marketing protocol on chain, you could use a web proof of a Instagram post performance statistics as a way to remunerate the creators in a trustless way. So web proof is the first functionality. We have also email proof. It's a similar concept. It just allows you to access data that is sitting on email servers, and then there are beautiful properties around the cryptography of how servers sign the contents, and it has been existing for a few decades now, and we are just accessing these properties and being able to take very granularly a piece of information from email and be able to again generate an attestation that someone sent a particular content to someone else. So for instance, if your tax office, for instance, is communicating with you, like you could use this fact as an attestation that, for instance, you are a tax resident in a particular country without exposing any other details. So think about it as an attestation that, let's say, you are a Canadian tax resident, but no one needs to know your name, social security number, or anything else. But again, the smart contract could trust that you as a user are actually
Canadian.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or at least for tax purposes.
Yeah.
So email proofs is the second one, and then we have two superpowers that we introduced to on-chain data. It's not that common knowledge often, because blockchains are supposed to be super transparent, but actually accessing historical state, we know that blockchain has beautiful properties that you cannot tamper with the past. Like once something is on published on blockchain, part of the transaction on the blockchain, like it cannot be modified, it cannot be changed or tampered with. That's true, but the way that this data architecture works is that it's not so easy to access and query the historical state very easily, because we have these Merkle trees and Verkle trees, and it's just not explicitly available. So what we created is our two features. One is called time travel, and the other one is called teleport, which allow you to really go into the past of any network history. So like, let's take Ethereum mainnet as an example, and just very selectively take information that was there and be able to actually access it directly from smart contracts. We also have teleport, so not only you can run a computation on the history of Ethereum mainnet, but you could jump to Base or any other network that is EVM compatible and build your program or access this information very conveniently, or much more conveniently than in any other available methods. So at the end of the day, VLayer today is a set of 4 tools that should make the life of developers easier. Hopefully we are achieving that, or at least getting there. As mentioned, 30,000 developers are testing. We are seeing approximately 2,000 proofs being generated every day in terms of like these experimentations. We are receiving some great feedback. There's obviously a lot to improve. Mainnet should be April. We don't want to commit to any particular date, depending how this feedback is going to be implemented. We are also undergoing external security audits by Veridice as we speak. So like there's a lot still to be done to make sure that this tooling is not only powerful and great, but it's also secure, and all the builders around the world will be able to embrace the features that we have been thinking about and then building.
So obviously, Hubert, I feel like, maybe for developers, for people like us who are building, like we sort of understand this underlying issue and why we decided to create smart contracts and work in this way. And I love the 4 features. Can you maybe explain to the general consumer why this is super important? You were talking about security, data, emails. Talk to us about the importance, because I think sometimes the consumer just is not aware of the underlying tech.
That's very true. Like I would say it boils down to the notion of trust, and the Web2 world, or let's say the normal world that most of the consumers know and understand and are living in, is effectively built on a notion that there is a consumer and there is some sort of institution, and then there is a regulator that is somehow making sure that the institutions are not too aggressive towards consumers. And we know how it works. What smart contracts or this entire Web3 movement is all about, at least from my perspective, is really redefining this notion of trust. So we feel that in some cases, probably not everything can or should be decentralized, but in some cases, everyday use cases, and we can go through a few examples, we could imagine a life in which this institution in the middle is not needed. Like, why wouldn't consumers be able to just access a decentralized service and interact with other actors directly without having someone govern this? Because obviously at the end of the day, these institutions sometimes or quite often introduce some additional costs or friction in terms of time. We all know how conventional banking services might be. Like on the weekend, it's not so easy to move funds across the world, which is a limiting factor. Like as a global civilization, like why wouldn't we be able to do it more effectively and more importantly? So sometimes because of these large institutions and like obviously all the people that are employed there and all the stakeholders that need to make their money, the costs are much higher than they should be. Like and if you eliminate them or reduce the reliance on them, like you could imagine a world in which access to certain services is easier, better, and cheaper, which makes the topic of inclusion obviously very important here. So that, like, we are very privileged sitting in Denver in a beautiful house, talking about changing the world, but like there is over 1 billion people that are unbanked, and being able to offer them services at a much lower rate is something definitely worth thinking about. So back to this trust notion. In order to have or be in a situation in which we don't need to trust an institution, we need to have other ways of making sure that the bad actors will not generate problems and obviously destroy the service for all the good ones. So mathematics or cryptography is very helpful in that, and that's exactly why we need to have this verifiability that sits in our name and is effectively the underlying factor. So in order not to have to rely on or have trust towards someone, we need to have a structural way of implementing this source of truth or ground truth check at the very source of information. So if we talk about the Instagram example.
Yes, I would love to talk about the Instagram example.
Like the best thing that we can do is really to certify, to like notary. Think about going to a notary. Like we are introducing this mathematical notary that is effectively hearing to what Instagram server is saying and putting a notary stamp, obviously in a form of bits and bytes and some cryptographic transformations. But at the end of the day, then no one can tamper with what was there. So a user that is submitting an attestation built in this way doesn't, like the other user that is going to interpret this or reference this, like maybe a retail company that wants to pay for the influencer activity, they don't need to worry that this statistics, this performance metrics of a particular influencer marketing activity has been tampered with, because actually there is this attestation that Instagram said so. So like we are effectively proxying trust or introducing relatively simple ways for the builders to not to have to rely on a third party or an institution. So that's why we believe it's so important, because it's perfectly in line with what we are trying to do as a bigger entity. Obviously, we are just solving part of the problem. Like we deal with verifiability, but as we've been talking for years, scalability of blockchain, costs, speeds, throughputs of this data infrastructure, but also talking about account abstraction, better user experience, like that. It's all trying to make this decentralized world more compelling to end users, and that's effectively what we are after. Like our bet is that if we make the lives, if we equip Web3 developers with better tools, they are standing a better they have a better chance in convincing the end users to use their creations. It will take some time, but today in many situations, like a Web2 app is just better, like in terms of user experience, than a Web3 equivalent of such an app. But we believe that if we bring the data from Web2 apps into the smart contracts and have the properties of decentralization, soon enough we will have better utility to offer to end users. And then it's going to become, whether you like crypto or not, like if you get something better, consumers will just choose that.
Of course.
And our part is like bringing verifiability and connecting these worlds, because I'm a data scientist. I've spent my 7 years of my life before VLayer fighting online fraud with data, and I can tell how much value there is in data. So like if we are separate, if smart contracts today are separated from all the data stored on centralized servers, and this is the bulk of the volumes that are relevant to everyday users, that's why we need to bring them. Like we need to have an easy way for developers to bring and reference this data in smart contracts. Only then we are standing a chance to break the bubble and make sure that there are more end users, and crypto is not just a niche topic, it's actually changing the world.
I do have a question, because we're talking about Instagram. I think about Mark Zuckerberg. He runs a couple of different apps, owns his data, right? That's how he's been making his money.
Yeah.
Do you think that Mark Zuckerberg would be interested in smart contracts?
I mean, probably Mark Zuckerberg has a few different parts to him. Like for sure, on a technical, savvy or nerdy persona within him, he would love what we are doing. From a purely business standpoint, we are going to make his life or companies that are benefiting from the asymmetry of power between users and centralized platforms a little bit more difficult, like hopefully more than a little bit. The fact is that, and that's also a big part of Web3, we do believe that the economy that we are starting to see is that users are spending, like end users are effectively working for centralized platforms.
Exactly. I know. I'm a creator. That's
you are investing your time, your creative energies, like your inspiration, your life effectively to generating data on these platforms. Obviously, you are signing terms and conditions that are saying are saying what they are saying, but at the end of the day, you should have more than just access to the data that you are helping to generate, and especially with AI. And again, my former business was in the field of machine learning and AI, so I understand it a little bit from the kitchen side. Like these data volumes are now becoming even more lucrative, because ability to train more powerful large language models and other AI creations, that's really becoming the currency of the modern tech. So if you are effectively working for Instagram, you should be able to own or participate economically much more into what you are effectively doing. And with the attestations or the like web proofs in this case, like the technology we are bringing to table, we give you a way to take what's yours and start to monetize it in Web3, which obviously is not something that Mr. Zuckerberg and others will be extremely excited about, but I'm pretty sure that if we were having a technical discussion outside of the business context, like he would love what's happening.
Yeah. No, that's why I ask, because, I think a lot of people, consumers, to your point, are on these apps and they're just not aware of the data, of what they're doing, of, the breaches.
And if you think about this, like many questions are asked about what will people do with AI growing in power, and one of the answers I'm feeling comfortable with is that we are seeing generations of users that are effectively working for, like, we are generating data, we are bringing context, we are recalibrating these models. This is creating the strength of these models, which are then monetized. So it's not that difficult to imagine that spending time on these apps and giving feedback to the models and and interacting with them, it's becoming a job of our days. And yeah, maybe we'll be seeing fewer junior analysts like computing simple mathematical things in companies, but like we are having a new sector of economy, and it is not yet properly accounted for, and it's not properly recognized. It's not perceived as a job, but at the end of the day, like if you are spending your day, like hours of a day doing something, like this is becoming a job, and it should be remunerated. It should be somehow recognized as an economic activity.
Let's go back to VLayer, Mainnet, happening sometime in April. What can developers expect? What can people expect?
I hope they will expect an even more refined set of tools. There are obviously bugs, and we are aware of them, and we love to hear feedback. So if there's anyone listening and is willing to challenge us on some of the assumptions, like more than happy to do it. It should be stable. It should be filled with great examples. Like we do believe that developer experience is not just the documentation, the quality of, let's say, these more static artifacts, but also the inspirational layer. So like to be able to run and follow a very simple example and then get the imagination flowing in the developers, and that's what we are spending a lot of time. So hopefully the library of examples will be richer than today, and we'll start to see even more adoption and great projects that are being incepted or reinforced with this tooling. Like again, we are just a brick. We do believe it's a pretty important brick, but at the end of the day, we need to see builders building beautiful houses, and these houses being compelling to all the guests, i.e. consumers out there, and hopefully in 12 months we'll be in a slightly different world.
Where can people learn more? Where can people connect?
Great question. VLayer.xyz is our website. We are active on X and a few other platforms. VLayer_XYZ is the handle. You can find me as Hubert VLayer on X as well, and we are starting to be more vocal about what we've been building. So I'm sure if someone wants, they will find a way to get in touch.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure, and thanks for having me.
Brought to you by Hedera and Foresight Ventures.
Hey, what's up?
But it's not something Genzio is afraid of.
If you want to survive, you got to build a house.
You know we do not understand. Ladies and gentlemen.
We're back at the Genzio Media House.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us today.